everyone, and welcome to the Vivienne. This is my new design, and you can make this dress in so many different ways. You can put a collar on or not, you can put sleeves in or not. You could use a circle skirt, you can make it with a gathered skirt. The options are just endless. Here I'm going to show you how to make it with a circle skirt, and beautifully covered by this gorgeous hair was just the back neckline. So let's have a look at this dress. I'm using a fully lined circle skirt here, and we are going to use a concealed zip to finish this dress off and give it the really nice fit. Here you can see that my princess seams are so obvious because I didn't really line up my checks very well. So the way around that is to just simply use a different fabric for the sides. All your princess dresses, here they are sorted with this one. It's a fabulous little dress, which you could also make, if you'd liked, with a collar and tabs and beautiful sleeves with these gorgeous little cuffs. So this comes in a different video. It has a gathered skirt, which you of course could also put on this one we're doing now, the sleeveless option. And we've got that beautiful petticoat, which has also a gathered bit at the hem. And here again, concealed zip, absolutely beautiful finish. If you want to know how to do that, that's videos coming up as well. But let's get started with this one. The front is cut on the fold, and then you've got two sides to that, and that gives you the princess theme. And just like I said, it's far easier if you cut them on the diagonal or use a different fabric altogether. And that's the back here with a nice swoop. The lining of this is actually cut in one piece. My zip here is 37 centimeters long, that is about 14 inches. So let's put together the back. You actually have these markings which you need to snip when you're cutting out, and that tells you where you have to sew the center back to the side back. And that makes it also very easy. Of course, if you've got a checked fabric like I do here, it's not so easy. I actually ran out of fabric, so my checks really don't line up, and there was nothing I could do about it. The easiest way really is to just not use a check fabric on the sides. Actually, it looks so lovely, as you can see here by the blended in little pictures. And then we do the same on the front, of course. So now we've pinned the front and the sides. We could also have a tie here. Now the next step is to sew close your lining across the shoulders. So let's get sewing. Place with the right sides facing each other, the shoulders on top of each other, and stitch them with a 1 centimeter seam allowance. So you've done both sides here, and now we're going to sew the side pieces to the center backs and of course to the center front. Again, we have the centimeter seam allowance. Just take the pins out as you go along. And this should line up a little bit better. Do it diagonal. If you wanted to use this kind of fabric, I would definitely do that. Now I'm sewing the front, and I do it exactly the same as I've just done on the back. 1 centimeter seam allowance, and there's my seam. And now that that's done, I'm going to close the shoulder seams of my dress as well. I have just sewn those together too, and now I'm moving over to the ironing board, and I'm gonna give this all a good press. So let's just recap. We're putting in the sides to the front and the back. We're closing the shoulder of the shell and the lining, and then we're ready to put them together. It's so fast. You always want to iron the princess seams towards the center front or the center back. Iron the seams apart of your lining. Now I'm going to prepare my skirt first. Don't get confused here, I changed the way I do it. So your circle only has one seam, and that's the center back. So you place your lining with the right sides down onto your shell fabric, and you sew it all the way around, only instead of having, as you can see here, that's only half a circle, you've got the full circle. So we're going to sew it all the way along the edge. 1 centimeter seam allowance, and then I cut the seam allowance back and turn my skirt. There we go. And next, yes, you've guessed it, we need to press this. So in this rolling motion, I make sure that I'm edge to edge here. Anyone that wants to understitch this on the lining can of course do that. I left this out because actually I found it not necessary. You can, don't have to. Skirt prepared. Now we're going to close the center back from where the snip is so that we can put the zip in at the top. So all you're doing is you're going from the shell fabric, from the opening which you left for the zip, all the way down into the lining, where again you leave the top open so that you can put the zip in. Then you iron that seam apart. Now we're going to work on our bodice. So take your lining and place it over your shell fabric, and then we're going to close the neckline, and we're not going all the way to the end, we're closing that once the zip is in. So about 3 centimeters from the center back we'll begin to sew, and then we go all the way around the neckline, and we're pinning this really well, and then we're going to repin it, you will see in a minute. So edge to edge, and if you've cut it out really well, then that should all work. So on the other side, of course, I leave the gap towards the back as well. Next, I'm also going to do my armholes. So spread this out neatly and make sure that it's really flat on top of each other. And then we're going to do the armhole in exactly the same way, all the way around. Still doing it. So now I've done all this. Anywhere that you've got a slight diagonal, the fabric will stretch and your neckline won't be very nice. So my little trick here is cut along the selvage of your fabric. Cut yourself some strips. I'm just using some white fabric that I've got hanging around. Anything really that won't show through you can use, and then you put that strip where you've pinned. You don't want to pull it, you just put it on loose, because that will not have any give in it, and that will guarantee that everything lies flat and that the neckline won't stretch. In industry they call this China tape. If you can buy this on a roll, say 20-30 meters of China tape, and just use it for all your necklines, it's brilliant. But in my experience, you don't find it in the shops, and it's just a good way to do it, just to using your selvages. Really, it's quick, cheap, easy. So if you can't get a hold of China tape, then do this and pin it all the way around the armhole and all the way around the neckline. And if you've never done this before, you'll be like really happy that you did, because it'll just keep it pristine. I've sewn this all on now. So I'm cutting back the seam allowance. So it's nice and slim, because all of that, of course, would make it awful tight. I'm also going to cut back the seam allowance from the neckline, but don't cut it back from the center back, cut it back from where you're actually stitching. And then you can also snip the curves on this one. just so that it lies really nicely. And now I'm going to have to pull the back through the front. And because for some reason I did not record this, I'm not entirely sure why I didn't. We're now popping over to what I filmed earlier for my flower girl dress, because it's the same method, apart from it doesn't have a zip. Grab the back and you pull it through the shoulder, like that. Oh, it's an awful lot of pulling to be done here. And once that's done, I can iron the neckline and the armholes. And you need to take your time with that, actually, because that's what will be visible from the outside wanted. This needs to look really good. What you will see straight away is that it doesn't stretch anymore. It's like really firm around the armholes. Now we're going to pop over again to my flower girl dress, because I changed my method slightly and it's so far easier to now sew the side seams together than to attach bits of the skirt. So that's why I'm popping over here. Just changed my mind there, thought why show you something that's difficult when you can have it so much easier. So you close the side seam in one. You start with a lining and you go onto the shell or vice versa. 1 centimeter seam allowance, then you iron those seams apart. And now get your finger in there and then fold it over nice and flat, and you get a beautiful finish. Really nice. Next, we're going to pin the shell skirt to the shell lining. Now, of course, we've already attached the hem together, so it'll be a bit fiddly when you come to do the lining, because you need to make sure that it's right sides facing. But it is a simple method. I can't show you that little step because I simply hadn't filmed it, because I actually made this dress differently and then changed my mind on it. So when you're putting your lining onto the bodice, you need to make sure that it's right sides facing each other, and it will feel like you'll have to pull the fabric through like a sausage, because of course already the hem is closed, but don't let that put you off. It is really simple. Just follow the simple little rule that the right sides have to be facing each other and you will be good. So of course on my dress here the sides are open, yours will already be shut, and the dress is almost done. I'm cutting back my zip a little bit because my seam allowance is only 1 centimeter and my zip at the top is a little bit longer. So the first step is to put the zip on with a holding stitch. So you can see here the teeth have to be showing up. Yeah, so when you put this on, make sure the zip teeth are facing you. Right side of the fabric is to the outside. I have actually made a video of this with a sewing school, and that's the concealed zip, and I show this in minute detail. So if you've never done one, then you should watch that as well. This is just a reminder. So now when you come and pin it on the other side, make sure that where you have the waist, that these line up, and then you go edge to edge. And zips are great because they fit with the 1 centimeter seam allowance, so you can really go edge to edge. That is not a problem. Often the zips also look like they don't quite fit on, they're too big. Once you've pinned one side on, the other doesn't seem to quite fit, but it will. You just have to make it fit. That's every single time you put in a zip, it will look like it's not right, but it is. So the first thing to do is just with a normal foot, just put the needle over a little bit and make sure that the waist seam is facing upwards. We're just stitching it down to where we have our opening. Then on the other side, we're coming back up. And with that holding stitch done, I need to now put on my zipper foot, and I move the needle over all the way to the side. You might even have a concealed zipper foot that puts it in without you having to now open up the edge. But it's a nice thing to know how to do this without the equipment, because then you can do it on any sewing machine. So move out that little gap and then sew right in the gap. Again, go to the sewing school video if you're not quite sure and you need more than just a gentle reminder on how to do this. All the way down, secure your thread, and then we puller all the way up, and that's it, already done. Now what we need to do is fold in our lining and fold the zip over the top and pin it. Then we can just shut that little bit. This is the reason why we left that open. So let's just go over it. Same seam allowance or slightly lower. Usually you get a little bit of a nose when you put a zip in, so always coming in a bit lower is a good idea. You can cut your zip back a bit, turn it, and you get a beautiful finish here. Very nice. Check that they're the same both sides, and if they are, we just need to turn the dress inside out and sew the lining to the zip. And you just pin it all the way around. I really like putting them in by hand. I wouldn't recommend doing this with the sewing machine. You can only do that anyway if the hem is open. If the hem is shut, then this is like closing the hole through which you're working, right? So it is a good way of doing it. It looks really nice as well. You've got more control. Now I'm having a needle and thread, and I'm pulling away the knot at the end, and then I kind of like tunnel through my lining and then pick up a little bit of the zip, and then I work my way all the way around, obviously. And there you can see it a bit closer up. Pick up a little bit, tunnel through your lining. Always pull the lining down a little bit further. It always seems like you want to get really close to the zip as you go along, and you don't want to do that. So now the dress is finished. I'm hoping that you are really excited about this one and want to make your own. This dress, of course, is part of the Wonderland collection. It is a summer, winter, autumn, spring dress. This dress has so many options, you probably never need to buy another dress pattern again. Anyway, I hope you enjoy all of them, and I shall see you next time, and thank you for watching until the end. Bye for now.